Good morning, everyone. So we'll start with the lecture. So first we'll take a quick recap of whatever we have done in the last lecture, since it is connected with all the topics which we are going to study ahead. So the very first topic we need to understand is what do you mean by real-time reactions. So we have already seen how the traditional APIs work, wherein you have to make an HTTP request to the server and then you will receive a response. So when we talk about this method of a HTTP request and response, it has some disadvantages associated with it. Like it is not a responsive system. So to make it responsive, we need to make it more fast. We need to make the delay to be have to be less. So this can be done with your help of your some mechanism which is there, which will help you to have a real-time reactions. So when we want to have a spontaneous system, specifically in your HTTP request and response mechanism, it is somewhat very difficult. But we can have some methods like polling, we can have some methods, commit, MQ telemetry transport, which will help us to do the same. So in generic, when we talk about an HTTP request, it is always a three-step handshake, wherein there is a client and server. The very first, the client will send an S1 request to the client. Then the S1 acknowledgement request will be sent back from server to the client. And finally, the client acknowledges the messages. So although this process appears to be very spontaneous, but it actually takes some noticeable amount of time, because the time taken to establish the connection may or may not matter, but at times it I- there is a possibility that the time which is taken for connecting the client and server and the actual transmission taking place takes few time. So that is something which need to take care of when we talk about real time reactions. Even we have seen an example of your crocodilo, wherein if you want to have a communication with the task timer, okay, so if you want to register the exact start time from where the user has released style, it actually doesn't happen, but it has actually the actual time plus the time of the connection when actual interaction has taken place between your clients and server. So the very first method which will help you to understand that real-time reaction is what is your polling method. So in real-time reactions, the important thing is that there has to be quick response from client and server end. The delay has to be very less. It has to be somewhere in milliseconds. So real time means both the client and server are present at the time and there is a communication between them. So reaction is nothing but the request and response through which the client and server are communicating. So the very first method is polling. So when we talk about polling, it refers to checking the availability of your server. So if you want your devices or if you want your client to get responses quickly from the server, so we need to have this polling method. So the polling is nothing but continuous checking of your other programs, or you can say your devices or one programs or device to see whether they are currently available not or they are connected or not, because you want to send information, you want to ask something. So if they are connected in real time, the delay is going to be very less. So if they are connected all the time, the time of communication between the client and server, the interactions, the request and response will be less. There will be time will taken will be less and it is going to be quick in case of polling. So here in polling method, the client is always going to send messages, that is connect poll. Even if there is no data to be sent or received, the connect poll messages will be sent from client to server, and similarly the response will be received from the server as well. It is just a mechanism which let the client and server know that yet they both are connected, they both are still alive, none of them have been gone down. So if there is any request can be fulfilled in real time with no delays. So that is your polling method, where a connect poll method is being sent from client to server and the response is given from server to client to make sure that both are alive. Second method is commit. So when we talk about commit, it is a web application model wherein there will be long held HTTP request and which With the help of commit method, it allows the web servers to push the data to the browsers without explicitly requesting it from the browser. So initially, whatever task was done from the browser end, now it is done with the help of a commit, where the explicitly requesting from the browser is eliminated and it is handled by the commit model. So in short, we can say commit act as an umbrella wherein you can have multiple techniques for having the interactions between your client and server at the real time. So all the methods which are used here are already included into your web browsers, like JavaScript, which is something already there into your web browsers. So the commit approach is something which is different from the original method of the web, wherein the browser always requests for the complete page at a single point of time. So when we talk about commit, there are types of commit methods. The very first type is long polling. So long polling is a unidirectional method wherein it starts off with the client making a polling request, which is always common and usual. But here, this, like your normal polling request, your server responds immediately with an answer. Even if the answer is nothing to report, the long poll waits until there is something to say. So this means that your server must be regularly sending a keep alive messages to the client to prevent the devices or web page from concluding that the server has simply timeout. Next is MXHR. So MXHR stands for multi-part HTTP request. So it is again a unidirectional in nature. So whenever you talk about this, MXHR, it allows you to pass multiple resources from the server side to the client side using one HTTP request. Because whenever you are building your web application, it is very much common that you are going to use a JavaScript API, which is also referred at times as XML HTTP request, to communicate with your web servers without requiring the full page load. So from the web server's point of view, these requests are not different from any other HTTP request, but because the recipient is your some client side code, the conventions, there are some support libraries at both your client and server side to address this method of interaction specifically. So here all the requests of resources which will be made from client to server will be divided into multiple parts, because we really don't know our server have all the information with it or not. So the request will be in multiple parts, and according to them different parts, the resources will be allotted or resources request will be fulfilled by the client to server. Next we have HTML5 WebSockets. So HTML5, you can say, act as a bridge to link your IoT devices and your WebSockets together, because we want our IoT applications to be reliable. We want them, the communication has to be real time, and the latency rate has to be always less, maybe in zeros. So it is very much important that the mechanism which we are using for real-time communication should be bi-directional in nature. So WebSockets are something which will help you to have a communication which is bi-directional in nature. So this is something which is been emerged recently with the introduction of HTML5. So what WebSockets operates over your TCP/IP, and you can say it is an upgrade to the standard HTTP connection. So this WebSockets help you to have full duplex message-based communication between your client and server using a single socket. Okay, so important point is what the communication between the client and server is done using a single socket, and it is at times exposed to your JavaScript interfaces of your HTML5. So this protocol is just, you can say, an enhancement of the current HTTP protocol, but it is used advancedly since it allows you to connect your devices with in your real times, and the communication is very quick and it is bidirectional in nature. So WebSocket makes your server and devices communication easy. A server needs a WebSocket library that needs to be installed, and we need to have the WebSocket client and WebSocket browsers as well to be installed on your client or devices, which supports your WebSocket. So in other words, we can just conclude that both the client and server can exchange the data at any time because of the persistent connection. So in WebSockets, You can see over your screen the visual representation. There is a client, there is a server. So initially the client is going to make a request to the server. Okay, the according to the request for the connection will be opened by the server. There will be bi-directional message communication between the client and server. So it's somewhere it is a two-way communication mechanism. So once the socket is open, there will be persistent connection. Persistent connection here refers to what? The connection is going to be there permanently until and unless any one of them close the connection. So if any of them closes the connection, the next set of the side of the communication will also be closed, since it is just one socket. So if any of them closes the communication, then automatically the session will be ended for both of them. So that is your WebSockets. So all your HTML WebSockets works with your IoT, which helps you to make your devices communicate in a better way in the full duplex communication. So all your sensors, your laptops, your tablets, your mobile phones, air conditioner, all your devices will be connected in the real time. The information will be communicated with the help of the WebSockets. Let's move to the next. Next is scaling. So when we talk about word scaling in general, it refers to adding the resources. So here the scaling refers to adding of your clients, adding of your servers for communication, for making the interaction more quick, and the communication will be faster. So when we talk about scaling, the important consideration is that all of the comet techniques which we have studied, specifically if we talk about the HTTP long held request, okay, where there is a long term connection with your server. For single client, it is fine, you can work with it. But if you have many clients, then the server has to maintain the connection for each of them. And if you run a server with multiple threads or processes, then the task is something which will become more difficult for you. So whenever you have your mechanism which is bi-directional in nature, where it can handle multiple clients, wherein it can handle multiple servers, in that case you should go with the scaling mechanism, the one which we have seen recently, that is your HTML5 with WebSockets, where you need just one single socket and you can have communication between your client and server, that is bi-directional in nature. However, the last two methods which we have studied, they were unidirectional. Why they were unidirectional? Because everything was initiated from the server end. Most of the important tasks were done from the server end. The communication with respect to the client was only with respect to asking the request or making any request, whatever it wants. But actual communication was on the client side. That is what was unidirectional in the case of MXHR as well as in the case of long polling method. But if I talk about HTML5 WebSockets, the communication is bidirectional. So if you want to go for scaling, then you can go with this option, wherein you can have multiple communications between your client and servers with the help of the single WebSockets. Let's move to the next. Next is the other categories of protocols. So this other categories of protocols here refers to the constraint devices. So when we talk about constraint devices, these are those devices which are having some limitation, that can be with respect to the size, it can be respect to your CPU size, memories, power resources. So that is why they are called as constraint devices. So if we see in IoT, all the devices which are communicating with each other are mostly constraint devices, because we are using sensors, we are using actuators, we are using some smart devices to make the devices smarter to sense the information the real time. But these devices, most of them suffer for many limitations as well. So whenever this type of devices comes together and they form a network, that is called as constraint nodes. So they are called as constraint networks. So the very first type of this other protocol is MQ telemetry transport. So MQ word here refers to message queuing. So this is a wireless transmission of data which takes place from your remote sources. It is a lightweight messaging protocol that provides all your resource constrained network clients to have a distribution of information. So the protocol which is used here is a wireless protocol, and the communication pattern which is used between the client and broker, that is nothing but your server, is publish and subscribe method. So it is basically used in machine to machine communication, especially in the case of IoT. So MQTT protocol is a good choice for wireless networks that experiences different levels of latency due to occasional bandwidth constraints or unreliable connections. So those who are going for the wireless communication, for them this protocol will be a good choice. So here in MQTT, there is a protocol which has two methods or two communication mechanism, that is publish and subscribe, and they are communicating with the help of these methods to the client and server, that is nothing but a broker. So initially at the very first step, the broker is a server where the clients are connected to it, and whenever any device or you can say a client want to send a data to the server or the broker, it does it with the help of publish and subscribe method. So whenever a request is made from client to server, that is called as a publish method. Whenever a request is fulfilled from server to client, then it is called as subscribe. So since it is a working over the wireless communication, so there is a possibility that your client and server at any point of time may not be available. The connection may be down or it may not be available. So in that case, if the connection is broken from the client side, then the all the messages which are there, the broker will make sure that it is saving it into the buffer memory, and once the client is back online, it will give the request or it will give the request to the client. Similarly in the case of the client, if similarly in the case of the client as well, if the connection is not there, if the connection is not possible, so the information will be saved into your servers and it will be responded back later on once they are back online. So here you can see there is a set of clients, that is client A, B, C, D, E, F, and the broker or the server has many topics with it. So every client, whoever want to have an access, will make the access to the topics with the help of publish method, and the broker or the server will give the request with the help of the subscribe method. So this is something which is a mechanism which is there. Message queuing here refers to that all of them, those who have request for the topics or they have request anything, that will be queued into the message. It will be on the basis of first come first serve. So those who have asked for the initially for the content or whatever request is made of the topic, on the first come first basis it will be fulfilled with the help of the subscribe method. So that was your MQ telemetry, which comes under your constraint devices. That was the first type. Second, we have extensible messaging and presence protocol. So in short, it is also called as XMPP. So it is a protocol that is used for streaming your XML elements over a network in order to exchange the messages and the presence information. So presence information here refers to your real-time information, and this works over the TCP/IP layer protocol suite. So here we can say that whatever communication is taking place between your client and server, all the information will be guaranteed information. There will be 100% communication between your client and server. So this protocol is mostly used by instant messaging applications just like your WhatsApp, wherein you will have your real-time communication between your client and server. So XMPP is based on your client-server architecture. The clients don't actually directly communicate here, but they do it with the help of the server, which they act as a intermediary. So it is a decentralized, so there is no centralized, you can say, XMPP server. Just like email, anybody can run their own XMPP server, but they have some set of server operations which help them to have a end-to-end communication between your client and server. So when we talk about XMPP, let us take a detail of it, that what each of them means. So the very first, that is X, that is your extensible. Okay, so when we talk about extensible here, it refers to, it is an open source project which can change, which can be extended according to the requirement. That is why it is called as extensible. Second is your M. So M stands for messaging. So it is designed in your XMPP with an intention for sending the messages in the real time. So it has a mechanism that is called as push mechanism, where all the messages will be pushed as they are received. Next, we have presence, that is stands for P. So it determines whether you are online, you are offline, you are busy. So it indicates the state, that what is your state. Like in your WhatsApp messages also, you can see that if somebody is offline, you cannot see what are they. You can just see their last scene if they have activated in such a way. Similarly, if somebody is online, you can see the status, their presence, whether they are currently available, they are not available, or they are busy. Next, last is the protocol. So it is a set of standards that allows the systems to communicate with each other. So when we talk about basic requirements, which is required here when we talk about extensible messaging and presence protocol, first is send and receive messages with the other users. This is important. Second, check and share the present status. Third, manage the subscriptions to and from others. So if there are any subscription methods, then they can do it. Fourth, manage the contact list, because when you're talking about instant messaging, you need to have a set of contacts with whom you can have in messaging. Fifth, block communication. So in case if you want to block any user, if you want to block any messages, then you can do it with respect to the specific users. So whenever we talk about instant messengers, which works with your XML, that is your extensible message and presence protocol, then we have to take care of 5 things. Okay. So here over your screens, you can see there is an example here. There is one mic and there is one Oli. Okay. So first mic will start the stream. Then the Oli will give the request back. Yeah, the stream has been started. So they are going to start with the session. IM refers to instant messaging. Okay. So the instant messaging session will be acknowledged by mic. Okay. Again, it will request for something. That request will be fulfilled. Like Oli have requested for a roster. So that roster is being set from the mic. Then they will check the initial presence, what is there, whether they are available, they are busy, they are online, whatever is it. Okay. So all the presence information is given. This is being sent. Then there is instant communication. So there is someone who have logged into it, that is called as header, who has sent the messages and suddenly it has logged out. Okay. Then the stream is closed and finally there is end. So here instant messaging here refers to what? There will be continuous messaging between different clients. Okay. There can be multiple clients at a single point of time, and there will be one server who will be requesting. Okay. So in your instant messaging also, whenever we are using any chat applications also, there is the one server who is managing the request, and multiple clients at a single point of time can join. They can have an access, they can share the information, they can interact with the information. At any point of time they can leave also. Like we can talk about our group, WhatsApp group, wherein at any point of time you can add, anybody can have logged out also, they can remove from the meeting also. So this is instant messaging. So all the messaging which is taken place along with the presence information of whoever have logged in, whoever have logged out, what is their status, are they there or not, will be done with the help of your extensible messaging and presence protocol. So again here both the client and server has to be in real time. Then only you can have an instant messaging where all the information can be uh, requested, can be fulfilled in the real time. Next we have the last topic, that is constrained application protocols. So when we talk about constraint application protocols, this you can say is a specified or specialized set of internet application protocol which are specifically used for constrained devices. So we have already know what are constrained devices. Devices, those who are having limited CPU, those who have limited memory, those who have constraints associated, then they are called as constrained devices. So this was a constraint protocol which was basically, you can say, designed for constrained application devices, and it was defined in RFC 7252. So RFC is nothing but a mechanisms where all the protocols are being designed along with the numbers. So constraint application protocol is a specialized, you can say, a web transfer protocol which are used with constraint nodes and constraint networks in IoT. So basically the main intention to here is to design, you need to have your simple communication. Even though if your devices are constrained, they are not having good CPU, they are suffering from low bandwidth, they are suffering from low availability of the network, but still the communication can be possible between your devices. So with this application protocol, you can make sure that all your constrained devices are also able to communicate with each other. The information sending is possible. So here we are going to use machine to machine applications such as your smart energy, you can say your building automation. So all type of IoT applications come under your constrained application protocols, because we know the IoT is one of the best example when we talk about constrained application, because they suffer from many limitations. So when we talk about constrained application protocols, some applications can run on UDP as well, depending on what is your requirement. If you just want to have a streaming of your videos, so in that case, you don't want to have an end-to-end communication. So you can opt for UDP as well. So choice is your what protocol you want to have. Because when we talk about UDP, there is no reliability into it. So with your constrained devices, you can decide what type of protocol you wish to have. So when we talk about constraint application protocols, it is basically used for two types of messages. One is your conformable messages and second is your non-conformable messages. So conformable messages are one which are conform, where the information is corrected, communication is guaranteed between your client and server. That is called as conformable messages. In contrast to this, non-conformable are one where there is no a guarantee of the communication, and that is something which is done with the help of a UDP protocol, you can say. So whenever you want to have reliability of your messages, then you can go with TCP option over your constrained networks. If you don't want to have reliability, then you can go with the UDP option. So in TCP, again, if you talk about, there will be some set of acknowledgements which will be done from the client and server end, and this will help you to ensure that whatever has been communicated over the constrained environments, or you can say constrained protocol, has been received by your client and server. So this was all your about constrained application protocol. So in short, you just understand all the devices which are having some limitation associated with it, that devices can communicate with each other with the help of your protocols, and this protocol is referred as constrained application protocol. And this protocol has been already defined into your RFC, that is into your 7252 is the code, where the definition is made about constrained application protocols. So whenever you want to have a communication between your client and server and they are suffering from any type of resource constraint, still they can communicate with each other with the help of this protocol. So this protocol works over your REST platform, that is you are using representational state transfer, where there will be two states only, HTTP request and HTTP response. Because we have all the servers, client and servers are connected to each other, there is a proxy that will help you to communicate with your constrained devices and fulfill all the requests of the client and your server. So in this diagram, you can see there is an internet, that is your servers, there is your clients, there is a proxy server. So with the help of the proxy server, there is a communication which is taking place between the different constrained devices along with the servers, and the communication is being taking place. Okay, so that was all about this chapter. In this chapter, we had actually seen that what do you mean by APIs, how we are going to implement the APIs, how the API interaction takes place, what are the different protocols which are used for the APIs, and it's working. So we are going to see few videos as well with respect to this, which will help you to have a better understanding that how the implementation takes place. Okay, so we are going to see the videos now. Okay.